Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something straight up. Your destiny does not ask for permission from your past. It doesn't check your bank account, your resume, your age, or how many times you've been told no. Destiny only responds to one thing: courage. And tonight, I want to talk to you about the kind of courage that changes everything. There was a place once where dreams lined up outside in the cold. A place where rejection stood at the door like a bouncer, arms crossed, daring you to believe in yourself anyway. People showed up there broke, scared, hopeful, shaking, but still standing. Some walked out defeated, others walked out transformed. That place was called Apollo, and the story behind it isn't about a stage, it's about a decision. You see, the difference between those who made it and those who didn't wasn't talent alone. It wasn't luck. It was the willingness to be embarrassed for a vision, to risk being booed while believing you'd someday be applauded. Most people never get there because they let fear talk louder than faith. Here's the truth nobody tells you. Your dream will scare you before it rewards you. It will make you uncomfortable. It will isolate you. It will have you questioning yourself at 3 a.m. But that fear, that's not a stop sign. That's confirmation you're standing at the edge of something meaningful. Every break through starts with a moment where you could have quit, but didn't. A moment where logic said, sit down, but your spirit said, step forward. That's the Apollo moment. That's when you walk into a room where nobody knows your name, nobody owes you anything, and still you say, I belong here. And let me tell you something powerful. Rejection is not a verdict. It's a test. It's asking you, how bad do you want this? Life will boo you sometimes. People will laugh. Doors will close. But if you keep showing up, if you keep working, if you keep trusting the gift you were given, one day the same crowd that doubted you will be clapping for you. You don't need approval to proceed. You need commitment. You don't need perfect timing. You need movement. Stop waiting to feel ready. Ready comes after you start. So here's my challenge to you. Walk onto your stage, submit the application, make the call, start the business. Write the book. Take the risk. Do the thing that scares you but aligns with who you're called to be. Because the real tragedy isn't failing in front of people. It's never trying and living with regret. Somewhere out there is a moment with your name on it. Don't let fear make you miss it. Step forward, bet on yourself, and give the world what you were born to give. Destiny is not a reflection of where you started, where you stumbled, or where you currently stand. Too many people allow their past to sit in the driver's seat of their future, letting old mistakes, missed opportunities, and painful experiences dictate what they believe is possible. But destiny doesn't respond to history. It responds to decision. It responds to the moment you choose to stop rehearsing what went wrong and start preparing for what can still go right. Your past may explain you, but it was never designed to imprison you. A lot of people disqualify themselves before life ever does. They look at their background and decide they don't qualify. They look at their finances and decide they can't compete. They look at their age and decide they're either too late or too early. But destiny doesn't care about any of that. It doesn't check credentials. It doesn't ask how many times you failed. And it doesn't review the opinions of people who never had the courage to try. Destiny is activated by belief paired with action, not by perfection or approval. What happened to you was an event, not a sentence. The divorce, the layoff, the rejection, the bad decision, the season where everything fell apart. None of those moments were meant to be the final chapter. They were lessons, not labels. Yet many people wear their past like a name tag, introducing themselves through their failures instead of their potential. When you do that, you shrink your future to fit a story that was only supposed to be temporary. There is power in understanding that where you came from does not determine where you are capable of going. Some of the most powerful transformations happen in people who had the least to work with. Struggle has a way of sharpening vision, building resilience, and creating hunger. If you survived what tried to break you, that survival itself is evidence that there is more ahead. The past may have tested you, but it also trained you. Courage becomes the bridge between your past and your destiny. Courage is what allows you to step forward even when your history whispers doubts in your ear. It's the choice to believe that your best days are not behind you, even when the evidence seems unclear. Courage says, "I am not finished," even when circumstances suggest otherwise. And once that courage is activated, the past loses its authority. Your destiny is not waiting for you to clean up every mistake or erase every scar. It's waiting for you to stop using those things as excuses. The very experiences you think disqualify you may be the exact things that qualify you to reach people, solve problems, and create impact in ways others cannot. When you stop running from your past and start rising above it, you begin to understand that it never had the power you gave it. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward while fear is still present. Most people want success without exposure, victory without vulnerability, and applause without the risk of embarrassment. But real growth demands that you place yourself in situations where the outcome is uncertain and where public opinion may not be kind. The moment you decide to pursue something meaningful, you also agree to be seen, judged, and possibly misunderstood. Embarrassment is one of the prices of admission for purpose. It shows up when you step into rooms where you are unproven, when you raise your hand before you feel qualified, and when you stand on your vision while others question your sanity. Many people abandon their dreams not because they lack talent, but because they fear how they will look if they fail. They protect their image at the expense of their potential, choosing comfort over calling. There is a humbling reality that comes with chasing a dream. You will not always look impressive while you are building. You may have to explain your vision repeatedly to people who don't understand it. You may have to start small in places where you expected to start strong. You may stumble publicly, get things wrong, and be forced to learn in real time. Courage is what keeps you standing in those moments instead of retreating into safety. Rejection has a way of bruising the ego, and embarrassment magnifies that bruise. Being told no, being laughed at, or being ignored can make even the most confident person question themselves. But courage teaches you to separate your worth from the response you receive. It reminds you that a single moment of rejection does not define your ability, and that today's embarrassment can be tomorrow's testimony. Every person who has accomplished something extraordinary has a collection of moments they would rather forget. Times they were unpolished, unprepared, or unpopular. Times when they walked away feeling small, but chose to come back stronger. Those moments were not detours, they were part of the training. Embarrassment refines you. It builds humility, resilience, and a thicker skin that allows you to withstand greater levels of success later. Avoiding embarrassment might protect your pride, but it also limits your growth. When you refuse to risk looking foolish, you also refuse the opportunity to stretch beyond what is familiar. Courage pushes you into environments that challenge you, demand more from you, and expose your weaknesses so they can be strengthened. Without that exposure, potential remains dormant. Taking risks publicly requires an inner confidence that is not dependent on applause. It means understanding that the crowd does not get a vote on your destiny. They may cheer, they may boo, or they may be silent, but none of those reactions change what you are capable of becoming. Courage allows you to keep showing up, even when the response is uncomfortable, trusting that consistency will eventually speak louder than doubt. Fear often arrives disguised as a warning, convincing you that you are unprepared, unqualified, or out of place. It speaks with confidence, using logic, past experiences, and imagined outcomes to make hesitation feel responsible. But fear is rarely evidence that you should stop. More often, it is proof that you are standing at the edge of growth. Comfort never produces fear, because comfort never requires expansion. The moment fear appears, It signals that you are about to move beyond what you already know. Most people misinterpret fear as danger when it is actually transition. It shows up when you are leaving the familiar and stepping into uncertainty. The body reacts because the outcome is unknown, not because the decision is wrong. Fear is the body catching up to a vision the mind has already accepted. Instead of asking fear to disappear, the real work is learning how to move with it present. Every meaningful change in life carries fear with it. New opportunities, new responsibilities, and new levels of visibility all create pressure. Fear emerges because growth demands adaptation. It forces you to stretch skills, develop discipline, and build confidence in real time. If fear truly meant you were incapable, it would show up only for the unprepared. In reality, fear shows up most often when you care deeply and when the stakes matter. There is a difference between fear that protects and fear that paralyzes. Protective fear alerts you to real danger, but paralyzing fear exaggerates risk and minimizes ability. It convinces you to wait until conditions are perfect, until confidence is complete, and until failure is impossible. Those conditions never arrive. Growth requires action in the presence of uncertainty, not the elimination of it. Fear also has a way of testing commitment. It asks whether you want comfort or progress, whether you prefer predictability or possibility. When you retreat at the first sign of fear, you reinforce the belief that fear is in control. When you move forward despite it, you teach yourself that fear does not have authority over your decisions. Each step taken in fear builds evidence of capability. The intensity of fear often matches the size of the opportunity. Small goals create small discomfort. Big goals create big resistance. Fear rises because the outcome has the potential to change your life. It is not there to stop you, it is there to reveal how much this matters to you. When something has no potential impact, fear remains quiet. Learning to reframe fear changes everything. Instead of asking, "What if this goes wrong?" the question becomes, "What if this goes right?" Fear then becomes a signal to pay attention, to prepare, and to commit more fully. It sharpens focus rather than destroying confidence. Growth begins the moment fear stops being an excuse and starts becoming information. Rejection has a way of feeling personal even when it isn't. It strikes at identity, confidence, and self-worth, often convincing people that a single no is a final judgment on their ability or value. But rejection is not a verdict. It is feedback wrapped in discomfort. It is one moment in a long process, not a lifetime conclusion. When understood correctly, rejection becomes a filter, separating those who are committed from those who are merely curious. Every meaningful pursuit involves resistance. If the path were clear and welcoming at every turn, everyone would walk it. Rejection exists to test resolve, to reveal whether desire is deep enough to survive disappointment. It asks a simple question without using words. Will you keep going? Many people interpret rejection as a sign to stop, when in reality it is an invitation to refine, adjust, and return stronger. There is a difference between being rejected and being incapable. Rejection often reflects timing, readiness, perspective, or fit, not potential. It may indicate that more growth is required, not that the dream itself is flawed. When rejection is internalized as a personal failure, it distorts perception and limits progress. When it is viewed as part of development, it becomes useful rather than destructive. Rejection also builds emotional endurance. Success without rejection creates fragile confidence that collapses under pressure. Repeated exposure to disappointment, when handled properly, strengthens resilience and emotional control. Each rejection survived becomes proof that you can endure discomfort without quitting. That endurance becomes essential later, when responsibility increases and the stakes grow higher. Many people abandon their path because rejection embarrasses them. They would rather protect their pride than pursue their purpose. But pride demands approval, while purpose demands persistence. Rejection humbles you, stripping away entitlement and forcing you to rely on discipline instead of validation. It teaches you how to work without applause and believe without reinforcement. Rejection also reveals character. It exposes whether motivation is rooted in passion or popularity. When approval disappears, only genuine commitment remains. Those who continue despite rejection are driven by something deeper than recognition. They are sustained by belief, not response. This inner drive becomes the foundation for long-term success, because it does not depend on external affirmation. Over time, rejection sharpens clarity. It helps identify weaknesses that need improvement and strengths that need refinement. It pushes you to study, practice, and prepare at a higher level. Without rejection, growth becomes shallow and unfocused. Each closed door forces reassessment, adaptation, and stronger strategy. When rejection is seen as a test instead of a verdict, it loses its power to define you. It becomes a temporary obstacle rather than a permanent identity. The question is no longer why rejection happened, but what you are willing to do next. Those who pass the test do not avoid rejection, they outlast it. Readiness is often treated like a destination, something you arrive at after enough preparation, confidence, or reassurance. People tell themselves they'll start once they feel ready, once they know more, once fear is gone, once conditions improve. But readiness is not a prerequisite for action, it is a result of it. Waiting to feel ready keeps people stuck in planning mode, while life rewards those who move before certainty arrives. Action has a way of clarifying what preparation never can. You can think, plan, study, and rehearse endlessly, but none of those replace the lessons learned through doing. Movement exposes gaps, reveals strengths, and forces growth in real time. When you take the first step, even imperfectly, you begin collecting experience instead of excuses. That experience builds confidence far more effectively than waiting ever could. The belief that you must be fully prepared before you act is often fear disguised as responsibility. It sounds wise, but it quietly delays progress. No one ever feels completely ready for something that stretches them. New levels always demand new skills, and those skills are developed through participation, not avoidance. Readiness grows as you engage with the challenge, not before it begins. Action also changes identity. The moment you start, you stop seeing yourself as someone who hopes or dreams and begin seeing yourself as someone who does. That shift in identity strengthens commitment. When you act, even on a small scale, you reinforce the belief that you are capable of learning, adjusting, and improving. Each action taken becomes evidence that you can handle what comes next. Mistakes are an unavoidable part of action, but they are also the fastest teachers. Waiting to be ready avoids mistakes, but also avoids mastery. Growth requires friction. You learn timing by being early or late. You learn clarity by being confused. You learn confidence by surviving moments of doubt. None of that comes from standing still. Action accelerates learning in ways preparation alone never will. Momentum plays a critical role in readiness. The first step is often the hardest because it breaks inertia. Once movement begins, progress feeds motivation. Small wins build belief, and belief fuels further action. What once felt intimidating becomes manageable through repetition. Readiness, in this sense, is not a feeling but a byproduct of consistency. Action also reveals that most fears are exaggerated. The imagined consequences of starting are often far worse than the reality. Once engaged, you realize that you are more adaptable than you thought. Problems become solvable, challenges become familiar, and uncertainty becomes navigable. The unknown shrinks when faced directly. Those who wait for readiness place control in circumstances. Those who act create readiness through choice. Progress favors those willing to begin before confidence arrives, trusting that clarity will follow commitment. Every step forward requires belief, proving that growth is something you build, not something you wait for. Betting on yourself is one of the most difficult decisions a person can make because it removes the safety net of excuses. When you place belief in your own ability, you accept responsibility for the outcome. There is no one else to blame, no crowd to hide behind, and no guarantee of approval. Many people avoid this step because it requires self-trust in a world that constantly encourages dependence on validation from others. Self-belief does not mean arrogance or blind confidence. It means acknowledging your limitations while still committing to growth. It is the understanding that you may not have all the answers, but you are willing to learn, adapt, and persist. Betting on yourself is choosing to trust your capacity to figure things out, rather than waiting for someone else to confirm your worth or readiness. Relying on external approval creates fragile motivation. When praise disappears, so does momentum. But when you invest belief internally, motivation becomes self-sustaining. You show up because you believe in the vision, not because you are guaranteed applause. This internal drive becomes essential when progress is slow, results are delayed, or support is limited. Betting on yourself also means accepting risk. There is no reward without exposure, and there is no growth without uncertainty. Choosing yourself requires the courage to walk alone at times, to move forward without consensus, and to endure doubt from people who cannot see what you see. This isolation is often misunderstood as failure, but it is frequently a sign of alignment with a higher calling. Many people underestimate how powerful commitment to self can be. When you fully commit, decisions become clearer. You stop negotiating with fear and start acting in alignment with your goals. Energy that was once scattered by indecision becomes focused. That focus accelerates progress and sharpens discipline. Betting on yourself also demands consistency. Belief without action is wishful thinking. You reinforce self-belief by keeping promises to yourself, especially when no one is watching. Each time you follow through, you strengthen trust in your own word. Over time, that trust becomes unshakable confidence rooted in evidence, not emotion. Choosing yourself challenges old narratives. It requires letting go of identities built on limitation and adopting ones built on possibility. This transition can be uncomfortable because growth disrupts familiarity. But remaining loyal to an outdated version of yourself costs more than evolving into who you are meant to become. The greatest loss is not failing after trying. It is living with the knowledge that you never gave yourself a real chance. When you avoid betting on yourself, regret accumulates quietly, shaping decisions and limiting potential. Choosing yourself is choosing ownership of your future, regardless of outcome, because fulfillment comes from knowing you honored your potential.